The grand hall of eternal flames stretched impossibly high, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into smoke and shadow. Pillars of obsidian, each carved with the deeds of dragon lords long dead, stood like sentries along the crimson marble floor. At the hall's far end, upon a throne of molten gold that never cooled, sat Emperor Varoth Ignazer, ancient beyond measure. His scales were the color of dying stars, his eyes twin furnaces that had watched civilizations rise and crumble to dust. Today, those eyes were fixed upon a small, unremarkable human girl. Lra Dawnfall stood in the center of the hall, her worn leather boots squeaking against the polished stone. She was 17 standard years old, her skin marked with the calluses of a forge worker, her hair tied back in a practical braid. Among the assembled dragons, each in their humanoid forms, draped in silks and jewels worth planetary ransoms, she looked like a sparrow among phoenixes. "Explain yourself, human." Varoth's voice rolled through the hall like distant thunder. "You dare interrupt the ceremony of ascension with accusations of fraud." The gathered nobles hissed, smoke curling from their nostrils. To their left, displayed upon a pedestal of crystal, rested the Codex Primordial, the very first book of Dragon Law, penned by Varoth himself 3,000 years ago. Today was meant to be its authentication before the Galactic Antiquities Council, a formality before it was enshrined in the Universal Museum. Lra's hands trembled, but her voice held steady. "With respect, Your Imperial Majesty, that codex is a forgery." The hall erupted. Dragons roared, their forms flickering between humanoid and reptilian in their outrage. Lord Kitharin, master of the treasury, slammed his fist against a pillar hard enough to crack it. "Insolence! The human whelp seeks to embarrass us before the galaxy." "Silence!" Varoth's word was a physical force that pressed everyone to their knees. Everyone except Lra, who swayed but remained standing. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You are Lra Dawnfall, daughter of Marcus Dawnfall, the human calligrapher who served my court for 30 years. "Yes, Your Majesty. Your father was among the finest scribes in the Empire. He died defending this very codex when raiders attacked the Imperial archives." Varoth leaned forward, his massive frame casting Lra in shadow. "And now you dishonor his memory with lies." "I honor his memory with truth." Lra reached into her satchel, producing a worn journal. "My father spent his last 10 years studying the Codex Primordial. He taught me everything he knew about ancient draconic script, binding methods, and ink composition. Before he died, he made me promise to continue his research." "Research?" Lady Sherinx, the keeper of histories, stepped forward. Her silver eyes glinted with dangerous curiosity. "What research could a human possibly conduct that our finest scholars have not?" Lra walked toward the pedestal, and though every instinct screamed at her to flee, she didn't stop. "May I examine it, Your Majesty?" The silence was absolute. To touch the codex without permission meant death. But Varoth, for reasons he himself couldn't quite name, gestured his consent. Lra's hands hovered over the ancient tome, her fingers passing just above its surface. "The binding is immaculate. Genuine dragon hide from the Twilight Age, preserved perfectly. The covers where patterns match 3 millennia of careful handling." She opened it gently, inhaling. "The ink is authentic, crushed starstone mixed with volcanic ash, exactly as dragons wrote before the discovery of synthetic compounds." "Then what?" Lord Kitharin began. "The words are wrong." Lra pointed to a passage on the first page. "This character here, it's written in Hydraconic circa 1200 Old Imperial. But the Codex was written in 1520 Old Imperial, when this particular stroke didn't exist yet. It wasn't added to the language until the Reformation of script, 200 years after this codex was supposedly penned." Lady Sherinx rushed forward, her eyes widening as she examined the text. "Impossible. I've read this codex 100 times." "You read it in translation, my lady, or you read it knowing what it should say, so your mind filled in the gaps." Lra flipped through the pages, pointing out inconsistencies. "Here, this conjunction uses a grammatical structure that didn't exist yet. Here, This metaphor references the 3 moons of Kairos, but that moon system wasn't colonized until 300 years after the Codex's date. And here. She paused at a particularly ornate passage. The hall froze. Vaeroth rose from his throne, descending the steps with impossible grace. He loomed over Lra, his true age showing in the infinite depth of his gaze. What did you say? My father was commissioned 20 years ago to restore damaged pages of the Codex after a fire in the archives. He was the best. His reproductions were perfect. Lra's voice cracked. But someone replaced the entire Codex with his reproductions. Someone who knew the difference wouldn't be noticed for years, maybe centuries. Someone who wanted the real Codex for themselves. Vaeroth's clawed hand reached past Lra, lifting the Codex. His face, so terrible in its majesty, went pale. His scales, which shimmered with inner fire, turned ash-gray. By the first flame, he whispered. Lord Kithaeron stepped forward, his expression shifting from outrage to horror. Your Majesty, if the human is correct. She is correct. Vaeroth closed the Codex with reverence. I wrote these words myself 3,000 years ago. I knew every phrase, every inflection, but I have not truly read them in centuries. I remembered what should be there, not what was. He looked at Lra with something approaching wonder. How did you see what we could not? Lra met his gaze unflinchingly. Because I'm human, Your Majesty. We don't live for millennia. We don't have the luxury of assuming tomorrow will be like yesterday. We have to pay attention while we can. She clutched her father's journal. And because my father taught me that the truth matters more than comfort, even when that truth is terrifying. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he inclined his head, a gesture of respect he had not given to any being in 1,000 years. The human girl is correct. We have been robbed, and by someone within my own court. His voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. Find the real Codex. Find the thief. And Lra Dawnfall. He fixed her with those ancient eyes. You will lead the investigation. Your father gave his life protecting a forgery. You have honored him by exposing it. As the hall erupted into urgent discussion and dragons rushed to begin the hunt, Lra allowed herself a small, trembling smile. Somewhere, she hoped, her father was proud. The mighty could be fooled. But the truth, spoken by even the smallest voice, would always matter. Always.